Hello everyone. Nice to have you to join me today. So today I thought we could talk a little bit about safety. The idea of safety in healing from the scars of the past. And so first thing is that before deep healing can happen, which requires reformation or involvement of the frontal cortex or the big brain, the long-term thinking part, safety keeps us trapped in the survival mode of thinking. So if I were to use our analogy, if your higher mind is where kind of the good stuff happens, where you're kind of making the best decisions, the survival mind is where you're making short-term thinking decisions. When we are challenged with safety, as in feelings of that are threats to our existence, feeling like our existence in some way is threatened, it kind of keeps a low or sometimes high grade activation of the survival mind. And that takes away attention from the healing work of the higher mind. And so you're never going to be able to long, deep breathe your way through an actually dangerous place. So if you want to do the important work of recovery, safety comes first, because safety allows you the room so that you can think clearly. So a lot of people, they are trying to recover in an unsafe environment. And so whenever I look at someone coming to me for anxiety or depression or addiction or something, I'm constantly asking myself, is this person safe? Because I know that if they're not safe where they're sleeping, it's unlikely that they will allow themselves to relax deeply to the point where deep healing can occur, such as during sleep. Remember, if there's a part of you that thinks there's a bear over there, even if it's sleeping, you're going to sleep lighter, you're going to be more rousable, you're not going to allow yourself to kind of go into the hibernation of mind that you might need for that deep healing, because that gives you vulnerability. And so safety touches on one of my favorite metaphors in all of the healing work that I do, which is the butterfly and the cocoon analogy. So we all know that maybe I just draw this out because I do so love this one. We all know that the butterfly comes from a caterpillar. Caterpillar and a butterfly look very different. And so a caterpillar is usually like a little green thing. And it has some legs. I'll just put an eye on there. Smiley face. So it's a slug, right? It's a ground-dwelling slug. It lives in the mud. It crawls in the mud. It's on the ground, so unsafety is the rule. That's what that's its lot in life, and many caterpillars die because they're unsafe, but that's where they are. So, but a miraculous thing happens whereby a caterpillar can turn into a butterfly. So a butterfly is different than a caterpillar in that it is living in the air. It is free of a lot more predators. It's got control over where it is, how it goes, and is leading a very different life than the caterpillar. So caterpillars obviously want to become butterflies. That's how it goes. And I think we can learn a lot from how they do that. So a caterpillar, when it's ready, and it's very important, when it's ready, you can never force a caterpillar to turn into a butterfly. You can never force recovery onto someone who's not ready or wanting it. But a caterpillar is very wise, so it doesn't transform into a butterfly just like that. It actually does what we call a cocoon. So a caterpillar will create a cocoon around itself, and inside the cocoon will transform, and when it's done its transformation, it will come out of the cocoon and will be fully existing in the butterfly mode. And so we can learn a lot from how the caterpillar goes and does this. So the first thing the caterpillar does is it wanders up a tree. So there's a tree, and off of the tree is a branch. And off of the branch is other branches. And off of the branches are other branches. And at the end of one of them is kind of like a leaf. And so the leaf that little spot right there, right where a leaf attaches, is a very safe place. It's a very safe place because birds can't sort of land on that spot. Limited predators, hummingbird could sort of glide there, but fortunately hummingbirds don't eat and disrupt cocoons. So it's a very safe place. The wind kind of can sway it, but the cocoon's pretty robust. It just swings around together with the leaf on the tree. So the caterpillar crawls up the tree and it goes and makes a cocoon. The cocoon represents safety. So a cocoon, if you open a cocoon in the middle of that work, it's just slime and gunk and weirdness in there, right? But as time goes on, the caterpillar will kind of create more and more robustness and strength of that environment. And so the cocoon, that's where that transformation happens. And I think that the safety that you get from being in there allows for that vulnerable work that happens. And if it opens prematurely, whatever's in there dies. And so if that work is allowed to go, then this can turn into that, and then that can turn into that. You know, if you ever watch a cocoon and a butterfly trying to emerge from a cocoon, it needs to do it itself. You know, if you open the cocoon up, butterfly struggling, right? And you're like, oh, let me help that butterfly out. And you make a little cut inside that side, and then it will, unfortunately, the butterfly will not develop the strength of its wings to then fly on its own. The wings won't expand, and so it'll fall to the floor and die, despite the help you've given it. So it really is, transformation is really about self-determination. It's about self-therapy, right? Humans are not as fragile as caterpillars, cocoons, but the same things apply. So a caterpillar will never, it'll choose to live out its life actually as a caterpillar rather than risk being in a cocoon on the floor. If there's no tree, it's just going to live like that because at least it's alive. And so traumatized people, if there's no safety, they're just going to live like that. And they should. Because if you don't have safety, exposing those wounds and that vulnerability to allow the healing to happen is dangerous for people. And so really what it is that catalyzes this decision to go over here is safety. Because of safety, a caterpillar will choose to do that, and a caterpillar knows what to do when it has safety. Humans know intuitively how to heal when they're given safe environments. And so early on in recovery, anyone's recovery, addiction, mental health, chronic pain, blah, 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 you know, we talked about the subconscious garbage can. To create a relaxed, safe place for that transformation to happen, everyone needs security and safety. So safety can look like many things. Most people think of physical safety, which is true. I will never work with a homeless person on deep emotional issues while they're homeless, because I don't want that work to make them vulnerable out on the street, because it's a dog-eat-dog world. They don't need to be distracted there. I will work with them to get them housed. Talk to social worker. You know, I'm a doctor. I'll call around, try to do what I can to help with housing if they're ready for it. A lot of people just think safety is physical. But actually, just like abuse can be not just physical, emotional. Emotional safety. If you're not safe to feel your emotions, a lot of children grow up in households where they got beaten or yelled at or belittled when they expressed their emotions. So they were instructed essentially that it's not safe to feel your emotions. And that leads to a clouded subconscious and a lot of illness. So emotional safety, being able at least a little bit sometimes allowed with someone to express your emotions. For some people that's only with their therapist. Some people it's only with a trusted friend. Whoever it is though, they have to achieve safety in this regard in some small way, whether it's 5 minutes of phone call to a trusted source. And if they don't have it now, they need to find it. That's a journey. Trial and error. Emotional safety. There's every kind of safety you can imagine. There's financial safety, right? If you don't have enough money to pay your bills and you're at risk of homelessness, again, deep trauma work, deep emotional work, it's going to be really challenging because you just don't feel secure. You're not sure where the next paycheck's coming from. That needs to be addressed. There's social safety. Is your network supportive of your transformation? If not, find a network that is. Number one thing that I tell people is misery, this is an old adage, misery loves company. Turns out happiness loves company too. But misery does not like the company of happiness, and happiness does not like the company of misery. So if you want to transform, well, maybe this caterpillar should meet some happy butterflies that can sort of tell him how good it is, him or her, how good it is to be free. So social safety, if that doesn't exist, it needs to be created. If there's addiction involving alcohol, AA is a great place. It's a great place where even if you don't work a program, you can just feel safe there. There's support groups, there's church groups, there's every kind of group, and what you attain at that group is a place of safety. You may not go down into the intimate details, but just that ability to know that you can is enough, so that you feel, and so safety. So there's every kind of safety. So I just talked about some of them, but there's sexual safety. A lot of people are in relationships where they feel compelled to have sex, and that just further distorts their mind. There's safety in terms of food security, in terms of relational safety. Oftentimes people in complicated, dramatic relationships are lacking of relational safety. So there's every kind of safety you can imagine. And the key thing is that if there's an area of unsafeness, it needs to be made safe. And so someone asks me once, oftentimes actually, people ask me, well, where do I start? And I usually say, start with where you sleep. If you're living in a home or with a spouse and you're unsafe with that spouse, and if there's a second bedroom in that home, the best thing is to move into the second bedroom. If you do have your own room, but people are intruding all the time, maybe you can lock your room. At the very least, you can't just up and leave, change that. If you're not ready for that, remember the caterpillar has to be ready and has to make that decision. That's why people don't leave abusive relationships, as there's a whole way to get ready for that. And the way we can all make steps forward is by just seeing where's our level of safety and how can we take it one step more. If you want to do deep meditation and prayer and mindfulness and things, that's a place of vulnerability. I remember I had a student in yoga who would refuse to close her eyes because probably something bad happened when her eyes were closed, and so she just would not allow herself to go into a place of deep relaxation. A place for her to start is to try to do it with her eyes open. If you want to do journaling, well, pick a place in your home that no one goes. That's quiet. You're not going to be intruded upon. So that when you're in your cocoon, people aren't coming in. You have time to prepare yourself before you sort of show your face to the external world after you've done that deep healing work. If you meditate in a place, then just make it sacred, make it nice, make it, special. Put some pictures up there that you like, or some things, crystals or plants. Plants are great. The plants can make a place really safe. When you start with a kernel of safety, any recovery you do will be built on an excellent foundation. And so I encourage you to think about safety that way. Think about zones. I like to talk about it in terms of the zones of safety. So we have green zone, we have and then we have our red zone. And then in between we have the intermediate zone. I don't have any gray marker, but so a really great exercise to do is identifying the green zone things, people, places, and things in your life that are helpful, make you feel safer. Identify things that can sort of promote the security of the cocoon. People, places, and things. So safe foods, for example, if food's an issue for you. Celery is an example of probably safe food for some. Donut is an example of probably red light food or a red zone food. So this is a great activity for journaling, starting to parse out the people, places, and things in your life, and how do they fit into the green zone, gray zone, red zone. Green zone is safe, red zone is unsafe, gray zone is I'm not sure. When you start categorizing people into safety zones, then you develop awareness. And awareness is the whole game of recovery. When you're aware of something, you can change it. When you're not aware of something, you are stuck on autopilot. And autopilot won't serve you. It'll keep you repeating the same thing again and again. This is oftentimes where, for example, an abused person in an abusive relationship exits the abusive relationship only to re-enter into an abusive relationship. So the whole aspect of becoming aware of what's the safety, when you've been living in unsafety your whole life, it's very hard to actually know what's safe and what's not. And no one will blame you. I won't. Just take that small step of categorizing. Green zone, safe. Red zone, really unsafe. Gray zone, not sure, needs information. Green zone promotes recovery. Red zone takes you away from recovery. Gray zone, not sure, needs some support, needs some further clarification. When you start categorizing, you will find that clarity comes to you. And as you start categorizing, as you start sort of becoming aware, the human nature is to seek safety. So you'll slowly, gently start developing and making the decisions to incrementally climb up that tree towards safety, to do what you need to do. It starts with where you sleep. Where you sleep has to be safe if you want to do any amount of work. And so what steps can you take to increase safety? You might be safe, but are you safe as you need? So not just are you safe, but are you safe as you need to be? And that might be like, I remember with my wife, when she came from India, I was kind of not used to sleeping with anyone else in the bed. And so my sleep wasn't as deep for a couple of weeks. And then I just had a conversation with her. I said, hey, this isn't what I'm used to. So how can we sort of sleep in the same bed and both rest? And she had the same issue. So we talked it out, and now we both have a wonderful sleep. So however safe you are, we can always make a little step more towards safety. We can decorate our room, right? Put some plants in there. Safety begins with where you sleep. Certainly doesn't end there, but it's a really fantastic place to start. So consider in your journaling. This is a great way to combine the journaling and the breathing to develop these deep insights, to see what are your blind spots. We all have blind spots, but through connecting to self, we can become aware of it. Through exercises like this, we can create awareness and goals of, okay, I want to be safe. This is an area I need to work on. This friend I always hang out with makes me feel like crap. So then it creates that goal. Okay, don't have to hang out with him or her. So that's a short little talk on safety, and it's the highest importance. You can't just meditate inside a fire pit. Sometimes it is, just about dousing the flame that you're sitting in, and so that you can kind of stay in that location. But if you're in a fire pit, why would you waste all that energy trying to douse the flame when you could just step out of the fire pit? So intuitively figuring that out, that's a question for you. It's a question of intuition and getting to that place of clarity, which really begins with awareness. So are you safe? Are you safe emotionally, physically, financially, socially? Are you safe in all of these different elements? And if not, then taking a step towards achieving that will serve you very well in your journey. So again, thank you, and apologies if I've misspoken, and I seek forgiveness for that, and I hope you'll tune in again. We'll continue this series of talks on recovery. Thank you.